everywhere, no matter where you live, there's always a bad crowd,
Mhm,
bad friends, and bad influences.
mhm,
Was there ever a time in your life where you could have went down the wrong road?
mhm. Absolutely, but not how you think.
Uh-huh.
I was a nerd, and so I was pretty driven.
Mhm.
So when I went to the junior college, and this is just kind of part of my story,
Mhm.
I really threw myself into my work at the expense of relationships with my family and things. My first 2 years at the junior college, and I loved it. I did well. I had good friends there, but I think I really made school my priority, and I think I made myself such a priority
Nice.
that um, that I missed out on relationships in my life. And so I obtained an internship. I went to Washington, D.C., worked for a U.S. senator, came back, and but God wasn't first in my life. And so there came a point for me. I started going to a Bible study.
Mhm.
They had it it was called the Coffee House at the Christian Center.
Okay.
And a guy named Jamie Gaston invited me to it. I started going to that. And one night, I decided I needed to change.
Mm.
And I think for me, that was a turning point in my life because was I going to serve myself? That was one decision.
Uh-huh.
Or the fork in the road decision was, or would I serve God and prioritize Him
Mhm.
and prioritize my family? And that night I decided to make a change. And so what I did was I went to that Bible study, and I don't remember everything about it, but Ty and Heather Bean,
Uh-huh.
they're the pastors of Cowboy Junction.
Okay.
I left that Bible study, drove to City Park in my 1994 Mercury Cougar,
Okay.
and I walked around the park that night. It was my, I was already at CSW at the time, USW, University of the Southwest.
Mhm.
And I told God, I had tears running down my cheek. I said, if you can use me, and I ask that you do something with my life,
Wow.
I think you can do more with my life than I can.
Mm.
And I went home to my family that night and just told them I loved them and I apologized for maybe even the times where I was a jerk. And I decided I was going to really serve God and I was going to do something different with my life. And from that night on, I thought, man, I'm going to become a pastor, all this, but God gave me the opportunity to serve a congressman, to
Mhm.
fly around with him in his Mooney airplane,
Wow.
and to travel to Washington and to some other things, to work for some state legislators, and then to run for office. And but that night changed my life, and I think had I not done that, that I wouldn't be who I am today. Because right now, my heart is to serve. I want to serve God. I'm a Christian. There's no doubt about it. But I want to. I want to. How does my faith reflect in my life? I want to love my wife.
Mhm.
A lot of politicians you hear about in Washington, other places, they might be great speech makers, but their kids hate them, or they don't
Mm.
have a good relationship with their wife. I want my wife and kids
Mm.
to respect me, and I want to respect them. I want to love them, and no matter what I hear about in the media about myself, I want to honor God
Mhm.
and I want my family to know that I love them and I want to have good relationships with them
Awesome.
and I want my kids to have a better life than I had because I'm investing in them and spending time with them. So anyway, that night in 2001
Uh-huh.
changed my life. Long story, but that's what.
How did you come to that conclusion? What were you doing that brought you down to your knees and
Hmm.
to speak to the Lord?
Hmm. Well, there's a verse in the Bible in Matthew 6:33, and it was Jesus. And he talked about all the things that people worry about. And he said, people worry, and this was 2,000 years ago under the Roman Empire, right?
Mhm.
America didn't even exist the way we know it now.
Right.
And Jesus said, people in the world they're thinking about everything, their clothes, their money, and that's the same thing today.
Yes.
We see it on social media. But he said this in Matthew 6:33. He said, "But seek ye first the kingdom of God and His righteousness, and all these things shall be added unto you." So what Jesus was saying was, put God first, and everything else will work out. Now we
Yes.
still have to work hard, we still have to hustle and do all the things,
Right.
but when we put God first, that's when things change. And so for me, God wasn't first in my life.
Mhm.
And because I believe because God wasn't first, other priorities were out of whack too. I made my schoolwork first. Now we should work hard. Our kids should work hard.
Mhm.
But I put myself on the throne. I
Mhm.
was worshiping myself. Nothing wrong with hustling and working hard and the grind and all those things.
Mm.
But I believe that we were made with a void in our hearts that only God can fill. And we were made to love. I believe we were made to love God. There's a verse in the Bible. Sorry, this isn't a maybe
No,
a
you.
religious
I
setting, but
love it. No, I
this is who
love
I
it.
am
I
as a
love it.
Christian. That's all right.
Mhm.
Okay. Well, I believe that we were made. There's a verse that says we were made for God and by God. So I have my Toyota Camry outside.
Mhm.
I could say one day, you know what? I'm tired of all those high gas prices. Hey, you got a couple extra water bottles here? I'm just going to fill it with water. That's way cheaper. Um, and there's some Gatorade over there. I think I'll pour some Gatorade in there. Oh, because it's my car. I can do whatever I want with it. Well, it wasn't made for that.
Right.
I put that in my car. It ain't going anywhere. It's
Mhm.
not, my car's going to be ruined. Well, same way with us. We were made for God. And I believe that. And so, I believe because God wasn't first in my life, other things were wrong too. My priorities were out of whack. And so there was an inner turmoil in my
Okay.
life. And I don't know where that would have led me, but I know that it did lead me to my knees because I didn't want to stay the way I was. I feel
That's
like I
awesome.
was a much happier person, more pleasant to be around when God was first and when I was doing my best in His strength to love Him and to love